The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of ParaX, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
All these voices. All these voices. All these things you can't explain. All these painful memories. They keep haunting you and daunting me. It's just a ghost of you and me. It's just a smoking gasoline. It's just a ghost of you and me. Of you and me.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Staring Into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me as always my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How's everybody tonight?
Tonight's show is going to be very, very different than what we normally do. As we're recording this, it is the day before Thanksgiving. So I thought it might be fun to just kind of do a show where we talk about a little bit more personal stuff, like stuff that we're thankful for and different funny stories and stuff like that from our past. Just kind of a more personal show than what we normally do. Because ordinarily what we do is we have an article or we have some paranormal topic that we're talking about and we read the article and then we give our opinion and all that kind of stuff. And it's a very serious kind of show. But for this week, I kind of want to go back into the past and talk about some different things in our life and, you know, just some funny stories and things that we're thankful for, that kind of thing, because of being Thanksgiving. So first and foremost, the thing that I am most thankful for in my life is that I'm saved, essentially, is that I died and came back to Christ. And to me, that is the number one thing in my life that I'm thankful for. But there's a lot of other things in my life that I'm also thankful for that have some kind of fun and interesting little stories that go along with it. So the first thing I'll talk about is my family. I'm very, very thankful for my family. I have a very interesting family. It's kind of a weird family in some ways. And I joke with people sometimes when we get to talking about families because I have literally like a Leave It to Beaver kind of family. We hug each other every day. We tell each other we love each other, everything like that. But I have a very weird family as well. As many of you know, if you are regular listeners to Staring, I live up in the mountains of Virginia, and I was a very, very poor person at one point in my life. Let's put it that way. And if I didn't hunt and I didn't fish and all that kind of stuff, I didn't eat. And my birthday is actually coming up on the 26th, and on some years it falls directly on Thanksgiving. And in this particular story I'm getting ready to tell you, that was the case. It was my birthday. It was Thanksgiving. And one thing about down here in the South and in the mountains, when this time of year comes, Thanksgiving time, it's pretty much a guarantee that all of the men are out in the mountain and we're all hunting. And the way it works in my family, the women would make the Thanksgiving dinner. They would all get together in one kitchen and they would make a big dinner for everybody. And all the men were out hunting. And then at the end of the day, you come home and Thanksgiving dinner is ready. You go and you sit at the table and you eat your dinner and all that stuff with the family. So this Thanksgiving, my family had decided that they wanted my birthday to be special. Because at this point in my life, we were not living here anymore. We were actually living in Illinois. And I grew up military, so I've been all over the world. And we would come back every year for Thanksgiving while we were stateside. When I lived in Germany, we didn't come back every year, but once we moved back to the States, we would come back here to the mountains every year for Thanksgiving, and we would go hunting. And so my family thought that they would like my birthday to be special and that they wanted me to be able to get a nice deer. So they decided to all get together and do what's called a drive. Now, for those that aren't hunters or that don't know, what a drive is essentially everybody gets together and walks through the woods in like a long line. And the object is to get the deer who are laying in the brush, especially if it's cold. They're not they're not doing a whole lot. They're just kind of hunkered down. So to get those deer up out of the brush and moving, and you want to drive them towards your people that are set up to shoot, your shooters. So in this case, I would be the shooter, and they were driving everything on the mountain towards me. And usually what happens is whoever your shooter is knows that there's a drive happening, and they know to be ready for the deer to come through. Well, they wanted it to be a surprise, and they wanted me to be able to get a deer for my birthday. So they didn't tell me that they were planning on driving. So what happened was we left the cabin, and I went down to my normal hunting spot, and as far as I knew, everybody else went to all their normal hunting spots. But they didn't. They all went to the far end of the property, and they decided they were going to start walking towards me and driving everything towards me. So anyway, I'm sitting there in the woods. It's Thanksgiving. It is my birthday, and it is a very, very cold morning. So I'm just kind of sitting there and hunkered down. I've got my jacket on. I've got my pants and everything on. I've got coveralls over top all that, my hunting coveralls. So I'm bundled up. And I'm bored because there's nothing going on. It's just quiet. There's nothing coming. I don't see anything. I don't hear anything. So I'm just sitting there in the cold. So then I have to go to the bathroom. I have to pee. Now, ordinarily, what you would do is just pee. But I'm wearing all these layers because it's cold as hell that morning. So I sit my rifle up against a tree, and I begin the process of unzipping and pulling down my coveralls so that I can get to my regular clothing underneath and start going through the process of trying to take a leak. So all of a sudden, as I'm standing there, I finally get my coveralls down and I'm taking care of business. And I hear what sounds like the end of the world taking place behind me. I mean, it is crashing and banging and stomping and just a hell of a racket coming from behind me. So I turn to see what it is. And I see basically a herd of deer come barreling at me. Full speed run, hauling ass, scared to death, right at me. Now I'm standing there. I don't have my rifle anymore. It's up against a tree. I'm holding myself because I'm using the bathroom. And I try to jump behind the tree because they're all coming straight at me. So I kind of half get behind a tree, end up kind of falling and peeing all over myself. And the deer all run by. And they're gone. Like a couple seconds, zoom, gone. And I'm laying there like, what in the hell just happened? You know, I'd fallen. I pissed all over myself. I'm wet now. It's cold as hell. And I'm sitting there in disbelief because I have never in all of my years ever had an entire herd of deer bum rush me and try to stomp on my face like that. It was insane. So I'm kind of trying to get myself together and get my clothes all back on and everything and get myself presentable. When I hear more racket coming from behind me, I thought, oh crap, here we go again. But it's a different sound. It doesn't sound like running and pounding and cracking and breaking. It just sounds like people walking in the woods. So I look and I see one of my uncles come over the ridge first, and followed by several other uncles and my dad and some cousins. And they're all come walking up, and they want to know if I saw anything. And I'm like, hell yeah, I saw something, man. I just had a giant herd of deer try to kill me. They just ran right at me. And they said, why didn't you shoot? We didn't hear any shots. And I should have lied. I should have made up a story that, oh, well, you know, they were running too fast and I couldn't get them or whatever. But one of my downfalls, maybe, I consider it a strength, but some people would consider it a downfall, is that I really don't lie much. I tell the truth all the time. So I told them exactly what happened about me trying to piss and the deer bum rushing me and me trying to jump behind a tree and tripping and falling backwards and pissing all over myself. The whole story. And they just roared laughing. So that is how I spent my birthday that year. Instead of getting a deer and it being a successful hunt, I ended up laying on the ground in the woods, pissing all over myself. But the reason that I told you that story is it illustrates why I am thankful for my family. My family is not a family that is a super wealthy family or anything like that. So for all of these people, hunting every year is a big deal because that is where you secure the majority of the meat that you're going to eat that year. You know, you might get 4, maybe 5 deer that year if you're lucky, if you hunt every season. You know, you hunt like archery, you hunt muzzleloader, you hunt rifle, all of that. You might get 4 or 5, and that'll fill your freezer so your family can eat for the year. So for them to give up a day of hunting like that just to try to have my birthday be better by getting a deer was a super cool thing, man. And it's that kind of stuff that is the reason that I am very, very thankful for my family, because we would literally do just about anything for each other. And that is a true blessing. The next thing I'm thankful for that I'd like to talk about is my wife. I'm a married man. I've been married for many, many moons, going on almost 20 years now. And frankly, I'm just amazed that anybody put up with me that long. And the way we got together and the way she was introduced to my family was kind of weird and fun. And so that's what I want to talk about now. I'll tell that story. When I first picked my wife up to come back to my house to live, we were coming back into the town that I live in. And as we're driving down the main road, there is an old man in a flannel shirt and in bib overalls. And he is riding a riding mower on the street like it's a car. And he's drinking a Mountain Dew. And on the hood of that riding mower is a tiny little dog who is running circles and jumping up and down and yelping and laughing and having a good old time. And as we're coming into town, my wife sees this old man and sees the dog running circles on the hood of the lawnmower. And she just roars laughing because it was the funniest damn thing she had ever seen. And she goes, "Look at that crazy old man driving a lawnmower down the road and a little dog running circles on the hood like that." And I looked at my wife and I said, "Honey, that's my grandfather." Because that was my grandfather. And she's like, "No, that's not your granddad." I said, "No, seriously, that's my grandpa." So then we're driving along through town after that, and we take one of the back roads because I live out in the mountains, so I'm not in town. I'm way out of town. And we're taking one of the back roads to get over to the road that leads to my road. And there's this gigantic fire on the side of the road. It's this, what we do here in the South is we burn brush. So you have limbs that come down because of trees being blown by the wind and little limbs break off and stuff. And you have like weeds and stuff in your yard. You pick all that stuff. You make a big giant pile in your yard. And then a couple times a year you go out and you set it on fire. And you just try not to burn down the whole joint. But that's how we get rid of the brush down here. So we're riding down the road and there's this gigantic bonfire happening. And there's this little bitty white-haired old woman, ancient old woman. And she has this wild, crazy white hair that's everywhere. And she's jumping up and down and beating on this bonfire with a rake. And it looks like she's doing some weird warrior dance or something out of like old ancient Ireland or something. It's crazy to see this woman do this. And my wife looks out the window and sees this scene playing out. And she's like, "Oh my God, look at that crazy ass woman. What is she doing?" And I look over and I see what's happening. And I said, "Honey, that's my grandmother." And so I actually pulled in because I said, "I got to go help her because, I mean, this fire's getting out of control." So we pull in there and I jump out of the truck and I run over to help her control this giant fire that she had built. And we're basically there for hours because once you set that big old brush pile on fire, you got to hang out and you got to make sure that it doesn't spread. So you have several buckets of water, you wet down the ground around it, the circle around it, and then you got to stand there with a rake or something like that, shovel, and keep knocking the different bits back into the fire as they start to fall out. So that's basically what you do. You just walk around the fire trying to control it. And so we're there for a couple hours trying to make sure that this fire doesn't get out of control. And that's how my wife first met my grandmother, who was a saint of a woman. She was an amazing woman. But that is how she was introduced to my family when we first came back into town, is seeing a crazy old man riding a riding lawnmower down the road in bib overalls with a tiny little dog running circles and jumping up and down on the hood, and a crazy old ancient white-haired woman jumping up and down and beating on a bonfire with a rake. And for whatever reason, my wife decided that she was going to stay. She wasn't going to leave. That was fine with her. And I guess she should have known that things were going to be a little weird in the first place, because here I am. I'm a big giant of a man who hunts ghosts and monsters and all that kind of stuff for a living, man. This is what I do. I talk about these things on the radio. I have paranormal teams. We go out and we look for these things. So I'm not exactly a normal person anyway. But I try to be nice, and I try to be sweet and loving and all that kind of stuff. And that leads me into the next story that I want to tell, which is the story of how I proposed to my wife. Now, I wanted to do something really romantic and wonderful and all this. So I had this entire speech planned in my head that I was going to give, and how it was going to be so romantic and beautiful and wonderful and all that. And I had planned on giving a speech at this event that we were at, and going up there and talking, and because she was graduating from a program, and I was going to go up there after she got her certificate and everything, and give a speech and present her with the ring, and it was going to be this beautiful moment. But I forgot the ring in the glove box of the car, and there was no way to get back out to the car without drawing suspicion and get the ring. So I thought, well, I'll just wait till we get home, and I'll give the same speech, at the house, and it'll be romantic and all this kind of stuff. Now, keep in mind, this is after we had just seen my grandfather riding a lawnmower down the road, and my grandmother jumping up and down, beating a giant fire with a rake. It was the same day. It was literally right after we left Grandma's house, we went home. And this is when I'm going to do this proposal. And so I had the ring in the box. It's in my pocket. And my wife is sitting, my soon-to-be wife, because we weren't engaged yet because I hadn't asked. But she was sitting there on my bed. And I had this whole speech in my mind planned out. It was going to be this wonderful, wonderful moment. And I had the ring in my pocket, and I'm starting to walk across the room. I reach in my pocket, I grab the ring case out, and I'm getting ready to get over there to where she is. I'm walking across the room. I'm going to get down on my knee, and I'm going to give this amazing speech and ask her to marry me. Well, I'm thinking about what I'm going to say, and I'm concentrating on all that, and I'm not really paying attention to what I'm doing as I'm walking across the room. And I end up tripping over the trash can, and I fall across the room. Now, I'm a big-ass guy. I've already covered that. I'm like 6'5", about 300 pounds. So it doesn't take me long to get across the room. So when I fall, I fell across the room. I land on the bed beside her. The ring goes flying up in the air, hits the ceiling, bounces off the ceiling, lands in her lap. Whole speech ruined. Everything ruined. The whole moment is just destroyed at this point, because it doesn't matter what kind of amazing speech I had in my mind. It's not going to matter at this point, because I've done fallen across the room, tripped. The ring is in her lap now, so she knows what's coming. It's not like I can play it off. And so for a man that makes his living with words, I'm a writer and I do radio. So I make my living by giving speeches and talking and coming up with words. I didn't have any words at that moment. So basically I looked at her and said, well, there you go. You want to do this thing? And that's how I proposed to my wife. That was the beautiful romantic story of the proposal. And what was funny is when we got married, we actually got married at a little wedding chapel thing that was above a joke shop. So if you walked downstairs from the wedding chapel, they sold like fake dog poop and stuff like that. It was like a one of those joke prank shops. So it was kind of fitting because of the whole situation, what she saw on the way home, the way the proposal went. It was fitting to have the wedding on top of a joke shop, and it kind of fit our personalities anyway. So that was the story of how I proposed to my wife, and the hits just kept coming after that. Our whole life has basically been that way, with things not quite working out the way they're supposed to, but us getting a really good laugh. When we went on our honeymoon, we had a nice room, okay? It had like a beautiful big hot tub, and it was a whole suite, so it had like a kitchen in it and the living room area, everything. It was beautiful. And so I decided what we were going to do is I was going to make this amazing bath for her in the hot tub, to where I was going to put bubbles in there, and it was going to be this beautiful romantic thing. So I'm running the bath water, and I poured like the whole bottle of bubble bath stuff in it, because I bought this fancy ass bubble bath stuff that came in this little bottle that looked like a champagne bottle. So I thought, it's not all that much. I'll just pour the whole damn thing in there. So that's what I did. And I'm running the tub, and there was a hell of a lot of bubbles. In retrospect, I used way too much of the bubble bath mix. I should have just used a little bit, but what the hell? I poured it all in there. So there was a ton of bubbles. So we're in the tub, and my wife decides that she wants to turn the hot tub on so it gets the bubble action going. And we thought that it would be fine because we thought that it was almost full of water. But the problem was there was like 4 feet of bubbles on top of the water. So when she turned the jets on, the water wasn't up to the level of the jets yet, but we thought it was. So it just blew bubble bath all over the room. So the whole room looked like a foam party when we turned on those jets. And we got a real, kick out of that. We laughed. And then I decided that we were going to have some champagne, because that's what you do, right? When you're celebrating, you're on your honeymoon or whatever, you have champagne. So I went and bought champagne. So we're trying to open the champagne bottle, and it is not cooperating with me at all. But I finally get it to pop, and the cork goes flying out of the bottle and actually puts a little hole in the ceiling of the room, like a dent. I wouldn't call it a hole because it didn't go all the way through, but it was like a massive dent. You could see the shape of the cork in the ceiling where it had dented it up. So then it was like, oh man, we messed up the roof. So that happened. And then we bought these romantic oils, let's put it that way, that we were going to massage each other with and all this kind of stuff. I'm not going to get too graphic on this, but needless to say, we had some fun with oils. And the problem is oils make everything very, very slippery. So I go to jump on the bed like some kind of Amazon warrior or something, and I hit the bed, and the damn thing is just slick as hell with oil. And I just go sliding right off the bed and slam into the wall over top of the air conditioner unit and put another dent in that wall. So that didn't go very well. So then we decide what we're going to do. At this point, we'd had some champagne. We're a little bit tipsy. And we decide we're going to go down to the pool and just kind of relax. So we go down and we get in the pool. And my wife had went and got her hair done and everything. And her hair looked gorgeous. They spent hours on this thing. And it was just this ornate, amazing hairdo that she had going on. So we go down to the pool, and we're hanging out in the pool, and some idiot is splashing water. So I'm getting ready to say, hey, man, why don't you chill out with that splashing, because you're going to get my wife, get her hair wet and all this kind of stuff. But I didn't have time, because my wife is also a badass, and she's a brawler as well. And so she, in no uncertain terms, told that guy exactly what she was going to do to him if he didn't stop splashing that water. So we almost got in a big fight on our honeymoon, not with each other, but with some dude that was splashing water. So we decided to go on up to the room and eat pizza. So that's what we did. I ordered some pizzas, and we hung out in the room, and we ate pizza for the rest of the honeymoon. And that's the story of my honeymoon. So this whole relationship has just been one fun ride. You know what I mean? And it's full of cool and interesting stories like that are definitely not normal, and they're definitely on the stranger side, but it's been one hell of a fun ride. So I am very, very thankful for my wife. I'm thankful that I have a partner in crime that also doesn't take life very seriously, and we can just relax and have a hell of a lot of fun together. We're each other's best friend, and really there's nothing better than that in my mind. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for my wife. I'm thankful for my friends. I'm thankful for my career. All these things. I've been very, very blessed. I've done this show with Old Boy now for almost 5 years, I think, like 4 or 5 years. And this started in a very, very strange way, because I'm a writer. That's what I do for a living. I write books. And I had never intended to do radio. It was never on my radar. It wasn't something that, I thought of when I was a kid and thought, oh man, I would love to be on the radio someday. Essentially, I've always wanted to be a writer, and that's what I did. I became a writer. And I used to do a lot of radio shows and a lot of interviews and stuff like that to promote my books. And I was pretty good at it. I was pretty good on the radio. People liked listening to me. And so somebody offered me a show, essentially. They said, hey man, why don't you come on and be on the show with me? Because you're really good on the radio and people really like you. And I think you're really interesting and I think it would work out well. So basically I joined up with a friend of mine to do a show, and Old Boy ended up joining up with us not too long after that. We had him on as a guest, and he ended up becoming a member of the show. And then that whole thing kind of fell apart to where everybody kind of flaked out. And at one time we had a whole network of people that were doing like 4 or 5 different shows, and it was going pretty well, but then it just all fell apart. And it ended up being just me and Old Boy left out of that whole group of people. And we were doing all the shows ourselves, just trying to keep everything afloat. And then basically what we did was we enjoy talking about paranormal stuff. We've been involved in this kind of stuff for a long, long time. So we decided if we were going to do a show together, just me and him, we were going to do a paranormal show, because that is kind of our wheelhouse. Because we used to do a show called We're Screwed, where we talked about politics, we talked about wrestling, we talked about all kinds of different stuff. But this is kind of our wheelhouse, like paranormal, monsters, myths, history, that kind of stuff. It's what we really enjoy doing and what we enjoy talking about. So that's why we did this show. But I'm very thankful for that whole mess that happened back then, because at the time it was stressful as hell. And at the time it was like you're just trying to keep things going. And everybody else is flaking out on you and going their separate ways, but you're still trying to put on all the shows. And Old Boy was the only one that stayed and stuck around and kept doing shows. He never flaked out. He could always be relied on. And through all of that chaos and weirdness came Staring into the Abyss. Staring into the Abyss is here because all that happened. And me and Old Boy were essentially left holding the bag and had to figure out some way to keep things going. And that's why we started doing Staring, is because, like I said, we figured if we're going to do a show, we might as well do something we're interested in, that we enjoy talking about. And almost 5 years later, or maybe 5 years, I'm not good at the time frame and the dates. I don't pay much attention to that stuff. Old Boy, when he comes on, I'm sure he'll tell you probably to the day exactly what it is. But about 5 years later, and we're doing Staring, and we're on ParaX radio, and we're heard all over the world in all these different countries now. And it's been about 5 years, and that all came from a bunch of chaos, and it came from us keeping our word and saying, you know what, we said we were going to do this, so we're going to do this. And something amazing came out of that, because I think Staring is one hell of a radio show. I think it's a great show, and I really enjoy doing it. And that all came from a time of chaos and turmoil and turned into something amazing. So my last point before I throw over to Old Boy would be that you've heard the saying before that God works in mysterious ways. And that's 100% true, because at the time you might think things are chaotic and think things are just terrible, and that there's no way it's going to work out good or work out for your benefit. But God is always working behind the scenes, and he has a plan for every single one of you. And you will go through times in your life that are crazy and that are bad, and that you don't see any point in these times. You don't see any reason that you have to go through the things you go through. But in the future, they will lead to something amazing. You have to go through some things in order to be ready for the future that God has for you. So the thing that I'm thankful for most of all, out of everything, I'm thankful for God. I'm thankful that God has always looked out for me and is always working behind the scene to make sure that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. So with that being said, I'm going to throw over to Old Boy and get his opinion on everything and the things that he's thankful for. So Old Boy, go ahead, brother.
Thank you, brother. And I think your birthday's the 26th, right? 2 days. So his birthday's going to be in a couple days too. So not only just going to be Thanksgiving, just technically, so you guys know, it's actually the evening, and he's 3 hours different. So it's almost Thanksgiving in an hour and a half, and it's only 7:30 here, 7:20 something. I don't know, but because I'm 3 hours different, so it's Thanksgiving evening, the day before Thanksgiving. Actually, it's not even the day anymore. It's the night before, the evening before Thanksgiving. Actually, we're almost there. So I don't wanted to wish him a happy birthday. So I'm thankful that I'm here. I'm thankful for my wife that I just married about 13 months ago, almost on Halloween. Halloween, actually, not almost. So it's almost 13 months. She's my best friend, my soulmate, my everything. I'll tell you a little bit about that right now. I met her about 5 years ago. I had no idea who she was. It was that's actually about 5.5 years ago on Facebook. I saw her. We were on some horror group. We started talking a little bit and we became friends. We didn't really talk to each other. A couple weeks down the line, we started talking all the time. She was engaged to somebody. Well, they didn't have the best things going on in her life, and that's all. We'll go on that. And they kind of separated for a while, and we started being together. The funny thing is, that's when I started my radio career, and I'll get in that in a minute too. That's what it all makes sense. It's weird how he was saying things happen for reasons. I have a difference of opinion, but things do happen for reasons, and I will agree with him on that. I originally came from Facebook, guys. I was a nobody that was told all my life I was never going to do nothing other than be probably a bum or something, or I shouldn't even be alive. I live a crazy life. I have lived a crazy life. I've had a lot of crazy things happen to me. But getting to this with about me and her, we met and we started dating. Her and her ex kind of tried to work things out, and we kind of stopped talking for about a year. And he, unfortunately, some things have happened, and he passed on. And then after that, we started talking, and we've been together ever since for over 4 years. Going to be 4 years in January, and we've been married for over a year. And if it wasn't for her, I probably don't know what I would be doing. I get myself in trouble. If you ever see things on TV, you don't have to be rich to have a crazy, fun things on TV you see people doing when they have money. I do it. I live that life. I'm not a rich person. I'm not well off. I have a 9 to 5. My wife has a 9 to 5. We make decent money. But I wouldn't change it for anything. I do things that I enjoy. Most people wouldn't, and they think I'm crazy. A lot of people think I'm crazy anyway because I'm Old Boy, and that's who I am. Pagan, nomad, and a gypsy, if you want to call me whatever. But I'm thankful for her being in my life because she's changed me a lot. And I enjoy coming home every day to see my beautiful wife that I absolutely love. And everybody recorded it. We recorded the wedding. James saw it and everything. And it was a crazy wedding, something different. It was just how we did it. No things like James. We slipped everywhere and fell. She shoved cake in my face. That was probably about crazy things we've done. That was it. Other than that, I do live a different lifestyle than most people do. I am known for that. We started this show 5 years ago, going to be in the end of December, because the other show was starting. People, some stuff has happened with the guy who started it. He had some personal issues. People were quitting. We were actually pretty popular. It was called Revolution Radio, and it was a good show for a while. They actually had people talking to them. James didn't say that. iHeart was talking to them, and I joined the show, and it just some stuff had happened. And then we made World Screwed. That's where I had a show on my own that I started helping him. And then it went to just me and James. One of the guys came back and started doing World Screwed again, but it just never got back to what we were trying to do. So we both like paranormal. He was doing this show called The Writer's Block. And I said, let's start doing a paranormal show, because I had a friend named Adrian Lopez who listened to the show all the time and said, you guys were the best together. And a couple other people had said that. So we started doing the show. And we started talking about a name, and we got into the Staring into the Abyss. I personally think Staring into the Abyss is one of the best shows in the world, because there's nothing like me and James Hershey. He's a born-again Christian, and I'm a pagan. There's no one who does that. It's kind of a weird mixture, like he was saying. It's weird, but it works. We both have the same name, James. We both are similar, but we're so different in our lifestyles. But we are very strong, stubborn, hard to live with. That's why I said I'm surprised somebody could stay with me. Set in our ways, but we're very loyal people. I'm a Gemini. I'm very self-centered, and it's something I'll admit to it. I'm not the only difference between, I don't look down on people. Though. I don't think I'm better than people. I am very high on myself. I've always have been. That's just me. You have to have confidence to do things in life, and I believe that. Look, I was a nobody. I'm thankful for my life that I have now, because I was a nobody. It started on YouTube, then made stupid videos, and started having a horror group that got very popular back when horror groups got popular on Facebook. 9 years ago now, 10 years ago. I don't know how long ago. That's how I met Ape the Chosen One, who's been on the show. He does movies, sings. That's how he started YouTubers. I met a bunch of YouTubers. And it helped me at that time, because I was in a bad spot years ago. But I was a nobody that started doing a show that now countries and everywhere knows who we are if they're in the paranormal world or crypto world, know who me and James Hershey is. Because James is already known, guys. He has a book. He has 4 of them, and that's how he got his name. I didn't have that. I have a book out now, and I have another one coming out soon. It's different than the one I already have, but it's after. But the best thing I've ever had was this show that we made out of nowhere. And I've always wanted to be on radio. That's a dream I've had. I just didn't think it was ever going to happen, but it did. I'm different than James. I was interested into it. I didn't think it was going to happen. I've always wanted to talk about paranormal. Every time I went to the library, read paranormal. I talked to this guy. We used to talk about having a show, and I did it. And it's famous. I don't care about money. I just want to help people and tell people about our journeys and our thoughts and our beliefs on these creatures that I believe exist, aliens, ghosts, whatever. Stories we tell, legends. I enjoy doing it. I don't care if there's 3 people listening or 3,000 people. I enjoy it because it's a dream I've always had. And I live my dream. I believe one day you'll hear us all over the world. You'll know who we are. I promise you that. Because I have made a promise to be one of the best ever to do this. And I will. And me and James have that confidence. We have the ability and we have the will to never be stopped. You got to realize I do this show with no equipment. I use a headset and my phone. James has the studio and does the editing. What trips him out, uses a microphone. I do it with my headset from my phone. And I use my phone on Skype. I'm just going to be it straight up. I don't have a giant mic where I think I'm, Howard Stern or something. I do this all on a whim. Not a lot of people can do that. I feel that me and James, I think we do a really great show. And I'm always going to say that. You're never going to get the information like you are from James. You're never going to get the straight out, in your face attitude with me and my opinions. If you had listened to any of our interviews, some people I've gone after a couple people because of stuff they claimed happened. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I want to know the truth. Are you telling this the truth? Or are you just saying this to come on radio so people can hear you talk? Because you get a lot of that with the paranormal world. We all know that, guys, and people just want to be famous and want their 15 minutes of fame and think they're going to get something out of it. But I'm doing this because I love doing this. If I didn't do it, I would quit. So would James. We'd go do other things. But I enjoy doing the show with him because I can trust him. If we did this show in real life, if we did a show on TV, I think it would be different than anything you've ever seen because honestly, we're going to go right at some of the most craziest things everybody's scared to do. We would do it. And I think that would be different than anything anybody else does. And I believe that will happen one day. And I've believed it for 5 years, almost. And I still believe in it. I believe that we've achieved a lot from nothing. And we made it. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful for my wife, my family, my friends, James Hershey for giving me a chance to do this show. Even the person who did it before, I thank you. Eric Whitman. And the people who did the shows with us, I don't want to name them all. We had a whole bunch of people. Like World Screwed and stuff like that. Revolution Radio. The Writer's Block. All old shows are gone now, but they were molding us to become Staring and Tells the Abyss. We're going to start doing it again when COVID calms down. I'll go back to doing this. James is going to be doing it. I'm going to one of the biggest paranormal things in the country in Nevada. It's coming up. There's a whole bunch of people in 2 weeks. I'm going to probably get some interviews going there. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for the life I have because I live a decent life. I don't care what you believe in. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters. And I'm happy for that. I am grateful for that and thankful. I hope when you guys eat Thanksgiving, you get to enjoy it with the people you love. And if you're not, you got to work, at least have it in your mind that you're going to see these people later for Thanksgiving. And then just try to enjoy it. Because the world right now, there's not a lot to be thankful for. But you got to make it thankful for yourself and your people you're around. Because anything is possible. I am living proof. James is living proof that you can do what you really want. And I did it. And I still do it. I don't know who my family is. My mom was adopted. My dad was never in my life. The only real blood I have is my mother and my mom and my daughter. Other than that, I don't know who I am. So the one thing I will say is my mom has the rarest blood. I know that. And we all know the stories on that one. We'll talk about that on the show. I can talk about that down the line. I don't want to waste time on that. But so I wanted to throw a little bit of some theories in there, some paranormal in there. So that means I have a little bit of it. I don't get sick a lot. I've never really broken bones. I got colds a lot. That's one thing I got. But other than that, I never really got broken bones or anything, knock on wood and stuff like that. I'm very tough. I'm a very tough person. It's very hard to be around me if you don't really know me. You're either going to like me or hate me, just like James. You're going to like James or you're going to hate him. And we don't care one way if you do or not. I'm going to go to bed tonight. I'm not going to care if you want to know the truth. Am I going to sleep well? Yeah. I've dealt with people all my life calling me stuff. I used to be a very heavy person. I got picked on very bad in my life. I've had a lot of bad things happen to me, and now it's fine. So I'm a very strong person, and it takes a lot to get me. That's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful for being the person I am now, because I don't think I could have been the person I am now if that stuff didn't happen to me when I was younger and in the last 5 years. And I'm grateful for this show. And I'm grateful for the people who are around me, family and everything, and thankful for you guys listening to this. And I'm thankful for Parax Radio and the people who listen to us on YouTube and our fans. I'm thankful for you guys. That's what I'm thankful. So that being said, James, there you go, brother.
The old boy said something that was so very, very true. We built staring from nothing, and we kind of built ourselves from nothing too, if you really want to know the truth. Because it's no secret, I've said it several times on the show, that I grew up without a lot of money. We were very poor back in the beginning. And my father joined the military to try to give us a better life. And in the early days, it was very, very hard. We didn't have a lot of money. There wasn't a lot of food. He didn't make a whole lot of money in the military, because until you get up in rank a little bit, the money is terrible. You get housing, which is good, and free electric and free medical and all that. That's amazing. But there wasn't a whole lot of money for food. So in the early days, things were tight and it was rough. And when I first started out on my own, I didn't have anything. And as I've said before, if I did not hunt and I did not fish, then I did not eat, because there was no money for meat. I mean, I had enough money to get like ramen noodles and spaghetti and stuff like that to make at the house, macaroni, real cheap food. But there was no money to buy like a bunch of steaks or hamburgers or roast or anything like that. I just didn't have it like that. So the majority of the meat that I ate came from what I was able to hunt or what I was able to fish. And it's kind of funny when you think about things, because I was happy. I mean, a lot of people say that when you're poor, you're not happy, but I was very, very happy, even though I didn't have anything really. And I've kind of been that way through the majority of my life, because I don't place any value on money at all. And people will say that, oh, it's easy to say that if you have money. But I didn't place any value on money when I didn't have money either. I didn't care. The things that matter to me are my friends and my family and my God and the experiences of life. I would rather be sitting out on a mountain, looking down on the valley and that amazing landscape that God has made. To me, that is the greatest thing in the world. It's better than any night out on the town. I can sit here at my house and hang out with my wife and watch Netflix, just binge some show that we're into or something. And to me, that is more fun, and it is more fulfilling, and it is better than taking a trip to Paris or something like that. That is everything. And if there's one message that I was to leave you with on this episode, it would be to value the people that are close to you. Value your friends, value your family. Those people aren't going to be here forever. I told the story about my grandfather and my grandmother tonight from opposite sides of the family. My grandfather was my mother's father, and the grandmother from the story was my dad's mom. But they're both gone now. Neither one of them are here anymore. My grandfather ended up with cancer, and it was a very long battle. They gave him 2 weeks to live, believe it or not. They told him that he needed to go home and get his affairs in order because he only had 2 weeks to live. And I walked off my job. I promised him if he would fight that I would take care of him. And I walked off my job with nothing in the bank. I was broke. And I left my job to take care of him. Stepped out in faith because that's what God put on my heart to do. To take care of that man for the rest of his life. And what I thought was going to be 2 weeks turned into 7 years that he lived before he finally died because the cancer came back. But he had beaten the cancer at first that he was supposed to die from in 2 weeks. And I thought when I volunteered for that job, when I promised him that I would take care of him, that it was going to only be for 2 weeks, maybe a month at the max, and then I could get back to my life. But God has a sense of humor, and I ended up taking care of that man for 7 years. Now, during this time period, I didn't have any money coming in. I wasn't working. I didn't have anything. And that was something that most people would stress out and worry about and be scared to death of. But I grew up poor as hell, so to me it was really no big deal. I knew how to survive without money. But I kept my word, and I did what God wanted me to do. What he put on my heart to do, I did. And during that time period, I had no money, but I had a lot of time. Because I'm just sitting there hanging out, taking care of this guy. And writing was something that I always wanted to do. It's something that I love, I was passionate about, and I'd always wanted to do it, but I was afraid to try to write like an actual novel because that was like a mountain to me. That was such a large and imposing thing that I just could never accomplish. It was so scary. But I had nothing but time, and so I figured, what the hell, I'm going to go ahead and just write, during this time. So that's what I did. And it ended up leading to my first novel being published, and then having 4 total that were published, and I made the bestsellers list, and it started this whole whirlwind of a life that I live now. And it all came because I obeyed. I stepped out in faith, and I did what God put on my heart to do, even though everything in the natural world told me that I was crazy for doing it. I had no idea how I was going to pay my bills. I had no idea how I was going to put food on the table during that time period. But I just walked right off my job and did it because that's what God put on my heart to do. And God always provided. During that time period, there would be jobs that would come up that I could go and work a day or two. During times when I didn't have to be with my grandfather, like overnight or something, I could go and work and make a good amount of money so that I could support myself for another week or two. And those kind of little things just kept kind of popping up out of nowhere to where I would just get blessing upon blessing upon blessing. And in the meantime, when I'm hanging out during the day, I'm writing. And then when I got the book published, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it was going along and it was fine and it was okay. And then next thing you know, things just went crazy. And it was incredibly popular quickly. And overnight, it seemed my whole life changed. And my grandfather, like I said, ended up living another 7 years after his diagnosis and got to meet his great-grandchildren and get to know them. And they got to know him, which was a real blessing for the whole family. So, as I said, what I would say to everybody is trust God. Trust what he puts on your heart. And as Old Boy said, anything is possible if you're willing to step out in faith and you're willing to work for it. So that being said, I'm going to throw back over to Old Boy for his shout-outs, and then we will wrap up.
Thank you, brother. I hope you guys enjoyed this show. I call it the best accident that ever happened because it was an accident that all happened, but it was probably the best accident that ever happened with us doing staring. I hope you guys enjoyed the show on Parax Radio every Sunday night and now Monday night. Not Monday. Tuesday nights now. The Best of show. So go ahead and listen to that on Parax Radio. If you can't, go on James Hershey Jr.'s YouTube page and subscribe and listen to all the old shows and all the new ones. And the paranormal news that he does. It's like a 10-minute clips of different things that he can't do a show about because there's so much stuff. So check that out. You guys want any merchandise? I'll tell you where to go. Shirts, COVID masks, all that cool stuff. I hope you guys have a good Thanksgiving, a good holiday. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy your family. Love each other as best you can is all I can tell you. Misfits, sugar ladies, monster hunters, and demon lovers, I love you. And blessed be and have a good weekend. Have a great holiday. And good night.
The YouTube channel is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. That's where everything is. That's where the staring, tales, paranormal news, all that is. In the description box of the videos is the link to the merchandise store. So if you want to get merch and you want to support the show, that's where you can find the link. You can click right on it and go to the merch store and get anything you want. I'd like to say thank you to all of you for listening to the show and for supporting us by hanging out and listening to us every week for so long. That truly means a lot, and that's something that I am also extremely thankful for, which is every one of you that listen. I love you guys, I appreciate you, and we'll catch you on the next one. Until we speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.